Hey everybody, it's Jenny Clark with Solvability. This is GovCon Summit, and I'm honored to have Jon Macaskill on to talk to us today about mindfulness and meditation. And Jon, could you just tell a little bit about how you got started in this and then go into your presentation?
Yeah, actually, Jenny, that's part of the presentation. So if you're good, I'm going to jump right into it, and then I'll go more into a little intro of myself after I kick it off.
All right, take it away.
All right, let me share screen here, make sure this works. There, you guys should be looking at the non-playing button. So now, all right, so yeah, so I'm Jon Macaskill, and I'm going to be here to talk to you about mindfulness and meditation and why you should consider doing it for yourself. But before we do that, what I want you to do is just stop for a second and bring your attention to what is stressing you out right now in your life. Maybe bills, it may be your job, it may be your family, it may be relationships. Think about that. And while you're doing that, what I want you to do is pay attention to what your body is doing and how your body is reacting. Your heart rate may have increased. Your respiratory rate may have increased. You may have noticed some tension in your forehead and your shoulders, some sweating in your palms. That is a natural reaction to stress, a reaction. Your body is taking that stress as a threat, and your fight, flight, or freeze mechanism, your sympathetic nervous system, is kicking in to protect you from that threat. That's natural, so don't beat yourself up for that. The next thing is you're paying attention to those reactions, you're being aware of that reaction. That's mindfulness, and that's what we're here to talk about. Next thing I want you to do is just take a second and focus on your breathing. Let all that stress that you were thinking about in the last slide, let that off to the side, put that off to the side, and think about the actual physical sensation of breathing. Notice how the breathing in expands your chest and your belly. And then as you breathe out, the reverse happens, contracting the belly, contracting the chest. Notice the physical sensation of the air entering your body, maybe through your nose, maybe through your mouth. And then the physical sensation of it leaving your body. And now notice how those stress reactions that you had previously, how those may have changed, how your heart rate may have been reduced, your respiratory rate may have been reduced, the stress reaction of your hands sweating, that might not be there anymore. You may actually have dry hands already. The stress tension in your shoulders and your forehead may no longer be there. That's you taking control of that stress response and stress reaction. You can control the way you respond. You have a stimulus, you have a thought, you have an emotion, and you have action. You can take a second in between each stimulus and thought and change the way that you act in your life. You can change the way you feel with your emotions just by simply taking a second to breathe in between the stimulus and the thought. And that's mindfulness. We're going to get a little bit more into that, but that's an introduction to mindfulness. So why did we do that? Again, to show you that you can control your bodily response or reaction to stress. You can always take control. The other reason is it's always an opportunity for me to take a few breaths as I'm presenting. So I appreciate your bearing with me as I took a couple of breaths there myself to calm myself down as I'm presenting. All right, so a quick intro. I know I do this kind of backwards. I jump into the presentation and then I do the intro. Intro is I'm Jon Macaskill. I was born in Cape Town, South Africa, brought to the States by my father when I was 7 years old in an attempt to get away from being drafted into the military. But then I voluntarily joined the US military. So that's always a laughing joke when I go back and visit my dad. He's proud of my service, but he always jokes that he tried to get us out of being made to serve, and I volunteered to do it. Grew up in Louisiana, graduated high school there, enlisted in the Navy first, then attended the United States Naval Academy. from the academy, I went out to Navy SEAL training and served in the Navy SEAL teams or attached to special operations in some capacity for the next 17 years, and just retired this past August. And now I'm teaching mindfulness and meditation. Why I do that is because I personally battled with stress and anxiety and depression, as well as dips in performance throughout my career in the Navy. And mindfulness and meditation ended up helping me to improve my performance. And then the byproduct of that was I learned how to deal with the stress, anxiety, and depression. So it's a win-win. Now I'm living a much happier, healthier, more fulfilling life, and I attribute that all to the practice of meditation and living mindfully. So that's a little bit about me. I don't tell you that to brag. I tell you that to show you that I'm not your typical mindfulness and meditation teacher, and I'm probably going to, what my message is probably going to resonate better with you than if I were here as a monk or as a big time hippie, although as my hair gets longer, I do resemble more of a hippie these days. But that said, I'm not your typical meditation teacher. All right, so we all have stressful things in our life. We have those budgets that we may not be sticking to, or those deadlines that we're going to break, or we have relationships, or we have a pandemic, or the stock market is crashing. Though here it would look pretty good, being that in the diagram it's going up, so that's always a good thing. But those things cause our minds to go all over the place all day. They cause our hearts and our emotions to go all over the place all day. And that costs us time, that costs us money, but more importantly, what it does is it causes our bodies to constantly be in the red. Much like a race car or any car, if we're constantly in the red, we're going to wear ourselves out and we're going to break down. And you're seeing that more and more these days as people are working from home and battling to draw those lines, redraw those lines that have been not only blurred, but erased in the now working from home world that we're in, kind of the blended environment. Some people working from home, some people are working in the office. That's stressful. So my intent is to bring mindfulness and meditation to you and open up your mind so that you can start thinking about these at the appropriate times, realizing that you're in the here and now, and that's where life happens. And that can help you to de-stress and bring you back into the green. And it can also help with the relationships. As you see that picture that was there before where they were struggling with the relationship, now they're holding hands. Mindfulness and meditation can, in fact, help with relationships. As it brings down stress, it improves so much in your life. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is defined as the process of being actively and intentionally aware of the here and now without being judgmental. So we hear the term mindfulness a lot these days in the media. Mindfulness is often used synonymously with meditation, and it's not the same. There is some overlap, and we're going to get into that here in a second. I have a Venn diagram to show you just where that overlap is. But first, what I want you to do is bring your attention to your toes and wiggle your toes for 2 to 3 seconds. And as you do that, what are you thinking about? As you're wiggling your toes, you're most likely thinking about the physical sensation of wiggling your toes. That's mindfulness. You're focusing on nothing else besides that physical sensation. Mindfulness is being like your dog. Your dog doesn't wake up in the morning and stew about what he or she messed up yesterday or what he or she has to do later today. Mindfulness is being right here, right now, because that's where life happens. So meditation, on the other hand, meditation is a practice. Meditation is formally setting aside that time to practice. Maybe it's mindfulness meditation, maybe it's a mantra with transcendental meditation, maybe it's some other form of meditation. Mindfulness or mindful meditation, that's where the way of living mindfully in the moment, here and now, and meditation overlap. So that's where you set aside some time to practice focusing intentionally on the here and now. But you can live mindfully, you can eat mindfully, you can enjoy a conversation mindfully by paying attention to what is being said rather than thinking about again, the future or the past. So that's the difference between mindfulness and meditation, and where mindfulness or mindful meditation overlaps with meditation. Our minds are incredible things. We think somewhere between 50 and 75,000 thoughts a day. And that's all driven by neural pathways. Our neural pathways are how messages move from one part of our brain to the other. And we can develop new neural pathways, and we can break old neural pathways. And by developing new neural pathways, we can actually take them from being these brand new neural pathways into superhighways. And a message is going to, as it travels through the brain, most likely going to go down that superhighway. So meditation can actually develop new neural pathways. It can actually increase the neuroplasticity in your brain. Neuroplasticity is the ability for the brain to actually change, to rewire itself. So you can develop new habits, break old habits, develop new thoughts of how you are, positive thoughts, break negative thoughts about who you are. Neuroplasticity is an amazing thing. There's a video that many of you may have seen. It's on YouTube. It has a gentleman, he's an engineer, who he's challenged by some welders that work with him who have re-engineered a bicycle. They've re-engineered it to where when you steer left, the front wheel goes right, and vice versa. And these welders challenge him to see if he can ride it across the room. And he's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem, I've got this. I'm just going to think my way through this. I'm going to think as I want to steer left, I steer right, and vice versa. I've been on a bike like this. It is impossible, if you have ever ridden a bike, to ride this bike the first time. It takes months to learn how to ride this bike if you've ever ridden a regular bike before, because you have neural pathways that are so deeply ingrained in your mind. You have a way of riding a bike deeply ingrained that you cannot just say, I'm going to do it backwards. And check it out. I highly encourage it. I highly encourage you to check out the video. It's pretty entertaining and pretty amazing to see how difficult it is to ride this bike. This guy does take it on as a challenge, and after several months, he learns how to ride this bike. But in the meantime, he has not been riding a regular bike, and he goes out to I forget where he goes, but he goes somewhere where there's tons of bikes. Amsterdam, that's where it is. And he tries to ride a regular bike, and he can't do it because he has developed a new neural pathway. Whereas his son, who is much younger than him, he learns how to ride this bike very quickly, because when we're young, our minds are very plastic and moldable, and we lose that neuroplasticity through time. But with mindfulness and meditation, living mindfully, practicing meditation, we can not only gain some of that neuroplasticity back, but continue to learn new things through our lives because we have that neuroplasticity. Anyway, very entertaining video on that. Like I mentioned, we have somewhere on the order of 50,000 to 75,000 thoughts a day. A lot of those thoughts are the same thoughts we had yesterday and the day before and the day before. A lot of us wake up in the morning, we roll over, we grab our phone. The first thing we do is check email, check social media, check the news, get up, make coffee, blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing through the day. And a lot of those thoughts are considered to be negative thoughts. So thoughts about what I should have done before, what I could have done better in the past, what I should be doing to prepare for the future, or what I should be worrying about. We've turned into warriors. That's WOR, warriors, not WAR. And we can change that through mindfulness and meditation. So what's actually happening when you practice meditation, when you live mindfully? The little red part on the screen there, that's your amygdala. That small almond-sized part of your brain is responsible for the fight, flight, or freeze reaction. So we haven't changed a whole lot since we were cavemen and women. That part of our brain, that small part of our brain, is responsible to save our lives. If we are walking out, going to get food as cavemen and women, we need to know that we can react in case there's a saber-toothed tiger around the corner. But there are fewer and fewer saber-toothed tigers around the corners. But these days, what we see as threats are these: our phones, email, social media, sometimes arguments, stress from the stock market, budget, kids, whatever the case may be. A lot of these stressors are seen as threats. So our amygdala kicks in and we react with that fight, flight, or freeze reaction instead of a response. By practicing meditation, what happens is we sit down, we focus on some type of anchor, whether that anchor is your breath, whether that anchor is a mantra, whether that anchor is a body scan, whatever the case may be. We focus on that anchor. And when our mind starts wandering off, and we've noticed it's wandered off, and we bring it back to that anchor, we bring that back to the anchor, and we bring it back over and over, we're doing mental repetitions and actually strengthening the prefrontal cortex of our mind. So that part of our mind is responsible for cognitive thought, rational thought. And by strengthening that, we're decreasing the size of our amygdala. We're not doing away with it at all, or completely, rather. We're just reducing the size, physiologically reducing the size. And by reducing the size of the amygdala and increasing the size of the prefrontal cortex, we respond rationally more often. We still have that fight, flight, or freeze ability should there be a real threat. But when we see our phones with email, social media, when we see somebody cut us off in traffic, we don't take that as a threat. We see it as something that happened and we respond rather than react. So that's the physiology behind what's happening. It helps with stress, as has already been covered. It helps with resilience. You build grit and resilience through practicing mindfulness and meditation. Body fat, as you reduce stress, your cortisol levels reduce, so you can, in fact, actually decrease your body fat. And by practicing mindfulness and meditation, a lot of the time you're going to get better sleep. You're going to make better decisions as far as what you eat. You're going to make better decisions as far as what you do physically. You're going to feel more energy so that you can go out and hit the gym or go for a walk or a run or whatever the case may be. So that's another way that it can decrease body fat. It could decrease your blood pressure. As we kind of showed at the beginning, as you take a few breaths in a stressful situation, you can decrease that breath respiratory rate and your heart rate. And with that, you can decrease your blood pressure, increases your brain function by focusing more on the prefrontal cortex and less on the amygdala, focusing more of the energy and the work there. Addiction, literally you can rewire those neural pathways. You talked about breaking bad habits and developing new habits. Addiction is nothing more than just an extreme habit. And you can change those extreme habits, the addictions, by practicing mindfulness or practicing meditation and living mindfully. I've talked about how it can help with your sleep. As you sit down in the evening, if you focus on the here and now for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, focus on the here and now, you can put some of that stuff that's going to stress you out and keep you awake off to the side, and then pick it up. Analogy there, obviously, but pick it up in the morning when you're ready to go. But it can help with your sleep. It can help with your perception of pain. By focusing on the here and now, you are literally raising your pain threshold. Your ability to endure pain can change by practicing meditation and by focusing on the here and now, by living mindfully. And then it can also change your signs of aging. By practicing meditation, living mindfully, that protects the telomeres. Telomeres are little parts of your chromosomes that are there to protect your chromosomes, to protect you from aging. By practicing meditation and living mindfully, it's been shown to actually protect those telomeres. So you're protecting the protectors. As far as meditating, how to do it, where to do it, I don't recommend jumping on a table at work and meditating like this lady, but I do recommend living mindfully at work. If you need to, take a few breaths every once in a while to bring your focus back into the here and now, like we did at the beginning of the presentation. But also just paying attention to how you're corresponding with people, paying attention to how many things you're doing at once. A lot of us pride ourselves on the ability to multitask. Multitasking is a myth. Multitasking actually increase your stress, increase the number of mistakes you make at work, and decrease your productivity. if we were trying to be mindful at work, you can shut down some of the windows that you may have open on your computer, turn off your phone, or at least put it aside, and try to focus on one task at a time. That can really help with living mindfully at work. You can also practice meditation by just doing a quick breathing exercise, bringing yourself into the here and now. So that's what you can do at work, but you can also do that in the mornings before you get your day started, and that sets you up for a more successful day at work. Or you can do it on your drive or commute to and from work, whether that's a commute physically in a car, train, or a commute down the hallway from your living room to your home office. By paying attention to the steps that you're taking, by paying attention to your hand on the steering wheel and the tactile sensation, that is bringing your mind into the here and now. And just doing that for 1 minute before you go from home to work has shown that that can increase your productivity substantially. All right, let's see, how are we on time? So we got, Jenny, we've got 12:26 here. I'll stop that. And if you guys are open to it, I'd love to run you guys through a meditation quickly as a group, and then from there, be open to any questions that you may have. So if I don't get any thumbs down or any message to not do this, then I'm going to go ahead and do it, Jenny. If you get thumbs up, I see that. Great. All right. Well, then I invite you to get into a position that is comfortable for you, whatever that looks like. If that's sitting on the floor, in the lotus position with your legs crossed, hey, I invite you to do that. I am not super comfortable nor super limber, so I sit in a chair with my feet planted firmly on the ground. And in saying that, I like to bring my attention to my feet being planted firmly on the ground, paying attention to the actual sensation of my feet in my shoes, paying attention to what my shoes feel like on the top of my feet. And then I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. And if not, just soften your gaze and look somewhere between 6 to 8 feet in front of you. And then, much like we did at the beginning, bring your attention very intentionally to your breathing, noticing the actual physical sensation of breathing in and the physical sensation of breathing out. As you breathe in through your nose and notice the air passing your nostrils. And as you breathe out, notice the air passing over your tongue and out past your lips. As you breathe in, notice the expansion of your chest and belly. And as you breathe out, notice the reverse, contracting belly, contracting chest. And now, just breathe naturally. Bring your attention to the very tips of your toes. We'll do a quick body scan. Starting at the tips of your toes, what do you feel there? Can you feel your shoes or the ground? Scan back to your entire foot. Feel any pain or any physical sensations there? You feel the soles of your feet against the ground or against your shoes. Moving further up into your ankles and then into your calves and your shins, and maybe flex your calves just slightly and lift your toes just slightly off the ground. That can bring your attention more acutely to the physical sensation in your calves and your shins. Start to notice that your mind is wandering off during this scan. Don't judge yourself, just gently notice it and then bring yourself back to the scan, the physical sensations that you're feeling. Moving up from the calves and shins to your knees, your thighs and your hamstrings, your sit bones. Notice the sensation that you feel of yourself sitting. If it's in a seat, if it's on the ground, just notice what that feels like physically. Moving up into your lower abdomen and lower back. Your lower abdomen is where some stress can really manifest itself as tension or even pain, discomfort. Don't feel a need to change that if you do notice it, but just be with it, see it, feel it. Moving up into your chest and your upper back. To your shoulders. From your shoulders, shoot out to the very tips of your fingers. Sometimes when you just sit quietly and focus on nothing else but the tips of your fingers, you may even feel some throbbing or sensation that you're not used to there. Just notice that. If it's not there, don't worry about it. Back into your hands, your wrists, forearms, past your elbows, into your upper arms, your biceps, and your triceps. Into your shoulders again. Through your trapezius muscles, into your neck. To your lower scalp, slowly moving through the back of your scalp. Up, higher, higher to the very top, moving over that top, down into your forehead. Do you notice anything there in your forehead? Any pain, any tension that you're holding? From your forehead, move out to your temples and down into your jaw. And just let your jaw hang loose, nice and relaxed. From your jaw, come to your mouth and your nose. And here we are back where we started. Bring your attention again to the physical sensation of the air passing in through your nose as you breathe in. And out through your mouth as you breathe out. And we'll conclude the practice with one final deep cleansing breath. Begin by breathing out all your air, bringing your navel to your spine. Breathe deep down into your belly through your nose. Hold that for a second. And relax, letting it go nice and slow. And when you're ready, go ahead and bring some movement back into your body. Slowly open up your eyes, refocus your gaze. And that is a quick and easy meditation that you can do just about anywhere. So with that, I'd love to open up to any questions or comments.
Well, the first thing is several people have asked, how do I get a recording of this? So I think the experience is important. I think my main question about this, Jon, is what got you started in meditation and what made you decide to go after? Because so many people, like, one day I learned to meditate. And for me, it's forcing yourself to slow down and say, I meditate now or something. How do you do it? What's your recommendation?
Sure. So first I'll say how I got into it. I battled with stress and anxiety and survivor guilt. I was on several deployments where I lost some brothers, and I took that personally. And for years, I self-medicated with alcohol, and then was prescribed different anti-anxiety and antidepressant medications, and I believe those still have a time and place, but they numbed me to life. So they numbed the pain, which was good, but they also numbed any type of enjoyment that I was experiencing, no fulfillment. And I started having some dark thoughts about whether or not I belonged here or whether I deserved to still be here after I lost my brothers on the battlefield. And ended up going to see a counselor who recommended mindfulness and meditation, living mindfully and practicing meditation. And I laughed at him, and I told him, hey, I've got some real demons here I need to address, and this snake oil that you're trying to sell me is not going to work. And then he reframed it and said, you know what, why don't you think about it this way? What if I had something to give you that would increase your performance at work, on the battlefield, in the office? It would improve your performance mentally, physically, emotionally. And I said, yes, I will take whatever that is that you're selling. And he said, well, it's the same thing. It's mindfulness and meditation. And he showed me this list of very high performing individuals that practice meditation and swore by it. So I took that and I went home and I downloaded an app on my phone. I downloaded Insight Timer. That's readily available and it's free. There are paid, like, premium versions of it, but it's a free app that you can download. And there's many apps out there: Insight Timer, Calm, 10% Happier, Waking Up, eMindful. There's literally hundreds of meditation apps that are out there. So I downloaded one and tried to jump right into an hour-long meditation, and was immediately disheartened and discouraged when I saw that my mind was wandering all over the place. And I thought that I was one of those people who couldn't meditate. And then I continued to try and realized, hey, you know what, maybe I should bring it back. So I started doing 2-minute, 3-minute, 5-minute meditations, just very short and simple. And I did that for a couple of weeks and went back to see the counselor. And I told him, hey, you know what, I feel better in the moment immediately after I do a quick breathing exercise or a focus exercise. And then I immediately get stressed out later in the day again. And this stuff's not working for me. And he said, well, that's like going to the gym for 2 weeks and thinking that you're going to change your life instantly and come out looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger, which we all know is not the case. So I went back and practiced for another 6 or 7 weeks after that. And the short-term effects that I was getting from each exercise ended up getting longer and longer. And I started to feel better throughout the day. And I started to have cumulative effects. So each meditation that I did, I felt better and better. And I felt more like I was able to meditate. So I worked my way up to an hour-long meditation and was able to get through it. Now, when I say I was able to get through it, I wasn't able to get through it without my mind wandering. I was able to sit down, notice my mind had wandered, and bring it back and get those mental repetitions that I referenced before. So with that, over about 8 weeks of practice, I started to see the long-term effects. And not only did I see them, but other people mentioned that they noticed that there was a change in how I was acting and how I was communicating. I seemed happier at work, and I felt happier. I felt happier at work. I felt happier at home. I was able to come off the medications, and I truly attribute meditation and mindfulness to saving my life, literally and figuratively. Figuratively, in that it's made my life so much better. I feel that I enjoy life much more. So that's how I got started. And you can start, I recommend meditating on an app. If getting a guided meditation by an actual teacher is not an option, start with an app, and then work your way up to longer meditations. Start short and then work your way up to longer meditations, and that's when you're really going to start to see the benefits.
Well, that's great advice. I started meditating when I exited my marriage. And just like one day I said the wrong thing. And then I realized, well, if this had never happened, I would not have changed my life. And I've been wanting to do this for like 12 years. And then I would get through the point where I was like, oh my gosh, now what? And I thought, well, meditation's free. And I need some stuff that's free, because all I'm doing otherwise is just kind of working up the same thing over and over. And so I started with Insight Timer. and I
Mhm.
didn't know what to do. I also got some books on mindfulness and meditation, and I'm exactly like you, starting with a couple minutes and saying, well, okay, you practiced. Don't take anything else away from it than you
Right.
did it, and try to get to 2 minutes, try to get to 5 minutes, whatever, because our mind is trained to shoot out as many thoughts as possible, 60 to 75,000, like you said. And we're so much in the world of, I've got to get this stuff done. So you really have to train your personality to overcome what it's trying to make you do. The other thing is, I found it's better not to tell any friends or family members what I'm doing, because they'll say, oh, you don't need that. There's nothing wrong with you. I'm like, you don't know what's going on in my head. But everybody has it. And whatever actions people can say, but I like Insight Timer. I know you're out there. I started with a guy named David G, and it's
Mm.
DAVIDJI. And a lot of the stuff they talk about, I'm like, I may or may not believe in it, but we have to let go of the judgment. You almost have to quit judging yourself for meditating and say, I'm just going to try this for a while and see what it does for me. And you're absolutely right. To me, if nothing else from meditation comes but quieting my thoughts, I've had a good session.
Right. Right.
So tell us a little bit more. Have you been able to encourage others, and have you found it something that other people really, when you talk about it, they're now listening?
Yeah. So yes, I'll get into that here in a second, but I also want to just address, the fact that when you tell people, there is that stigma that you may personally build about, hey, I don't want to tell people because then they think I'm crazy, or then they think I have something wrong. But we need to change that stigma. We need to make an effort. And I mean, the fact that I'm here and you've had me here, Jenny, so I appreciate your allowing me to help to change that narrative that surrounds these practices. When you go to the gym and people say, hey, are you going to the gym? You say, yeah, I'm going to the gym. They don't say, oh, you've got something wrong with you. They say, hey, good on you for going to the gym and maintaining and improving your physical health. By practicing meditation and living mindfully, that's all we're doing, is maintaining and potentially improving our mental health. And that's a good thing. We all need to maintain and improve our mental health wherever we are in our lives. So that's I just wanted to throw that out there because you made that comment. But I absolutely agree with you that a lot of the time people may disparage you. But I have also, coming back to your question, Jenny, is when I first got asked what I was doing differently, because I had showed improvement in my performance, and it showed improvement in my communication, showed enjoyment at work and at home, I was hesitant to tell anyone that I was meditating. And then I just kind of went out on a limb, and I fully expected to have somebody tell me, oh, you're meditating, you're a weirdo, and never talk to me again. But really what I got almost to a person was, oh, you're meditating? Tell me more. Or, oh, I've been meditating for 10 years. And, a lot of people kind of keep it secret because they don't want to be known as that meditating weirdo. But it's becoming more well-known. It's becoming much more widely accepted as something that's going to improve and maintain solid mental health. And then anyway, when I did start telling people, and they said, oh, tell me more, then I started to tell them more. And then they downloaded an app and they started practicing. Then we actually ended up, towards the end of my career, I ended up holding very small meditation sessions, 4 or 5 people at a time at work in the Navy. And we would meditate together, and people started saying, hey, you know what? Those sessions, I look forward to that every week. I come out of that feeling so much better. I look forward to that every day. We ended up doing it every day towards the end. And people started to benefit from it. And then I realized, you know what? This is an important thing in my life. It helped to change and save my life. I can bring it to others. And now I do that as a profession by bringing mindfulness and meditation to others, introducing them, if nothing else, at least introducing them to the life-saving, life-changing benefits of mindfulness and meditation. That's what I do.
Well, it's definitely a great learning experience. I see I've got our hand raised from Christy Pittman. So Christy, I've learned so much from Christy, and I would say she's probably the one that got me started in this direction to begin with. Christy, go ahead.
John, that was fantastic. And I am just so thrilled that meditation and mindfulness saved your life. And now look at the lives that you'll be able to save by doing the work that you're doing. So congratulations. That's fantastic.
Thanks, Christy. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you're glowing. That's great. So I learned something new. It helped me understand if this is correct, but I'm pretty excited. I hope I'm on it. Neuroplasticity is pretty fabulous, right? When we realize we can rewire the brain. But when you talked about that video of the bike and turning it the wrong way, is that why I can't snow ski? Because I'm an avid slalom water skier. And I cannot snow ski. I've tried the bunny. I can just do bunny slope.
Yeah, it may very well be. I mean, you have a neural pathway in your mind to what skiing should be, and when you get onto the snow skis going downhill, it's a different thing. It's like my wife. She's a snowboarder, and she's an incredible athlete. But when she gets skis on, she wants to go sideways, right? And that's a sideways movement. So in her mind, when she's in the snow, the neural pathway that is there is to go sideways. But obviously when you're on skis, you're going to need to go forward. I'm the other way. If I put a snowboard on, which I haven't ever done, I'm sure I would want to go forward, which if you've ever snowboarded before, that's not what you want to do.
Right.
But yes, you definitely have developed a neural pathway that is there for what skis are supposed to do. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with that. There's really, so I could nerd out on neuroplasticity for a while, but there's some fascinating videos. That one, when the guy can't ride his bike, that's fascinating and entertaining. But if you just look up neural pruning, you'll see literally what's happening. You'll see a neuron trying to connect with another neuron. And in a meditation, that neural pathway is actually physically being stopped and being rerouted to a new neural pathway. It's just amazing to see it actually physiologically happening in a brain during a meditation. Yeah, I'm a big fan of neuroplasticity, neural pathways, neural pruning. I mean, I think we can change so much of who we are that is working against us. So a lot of the negative thoughts that we have, negative self-talk that we have that hold us back from being our best selves through practicing mindfulness meditation and obviously living that mindful way, we can definitely change ourselves, change our societies, change our families, change our societies, ultimately change the world. We'll see.
Change the world. Beautiful. And I don't mean to be a hog, but one quick thing. I've worked with some veterans with PTSD and retreats. I was the life coach on the team, and a lot of them think they're broken, like I'm broken. But when our psychologist on the team talks about the neuroplasticity, and then you absolutely can rewire your brain, she came up with this term. PTSD stands for please try something different.
Oh, I love that.
So,
I love that.
Yeah. So thanks for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, Christy. And I will tell you, a lot of people have stopped using post-traumatic stress disorder and just using post-traumatic stress or post-traumatic growth because a lot of, I mean, obviously I would never wish trauma on anyone, but a lot of growth can come through facing adversity and facing obstacles. If you've ever read Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way, that shows you that people can not only bounce back from obstacles, but come back stronger. And not only come back stronger in spite of the obstacle, but come back stronger because of it. Post-traumatic stress, I always like to say we're dented, we're not broken.
Right, there you go. Awesome.
Well, I think that's a great way to put it. The other thing is we've really followed this theme throughout our whole event. We started with Chris Strickland, the Thunderbird pilot that ejected in 2003 and survived. And his main comment was, you've got to find out what you were meant to learn from that experience and where you can take it forward and how you can help others with what you've done. I think the other thing that you made was a very important comment about how athletes use this and how the more we learn about it, if you think about it, so much of what goes on in the military is also applied to pro athletes, but we don't think about it the same way. But certainly traumatic brain injury and the concussions and all of the injury things, we're realizing that it's not the brain that's damaged, it's learning to recreate those connections. And what Jeff Hoagland talked about, he was the one that was on earlier when you and I were talking, is about their treatment is based on treating the inflammation of the brain from the injury itself. And instead it's been acted as though it's mental health. And so people are over medicated. I think the other thing is, for the longest time, we just didn't talk about these things, and we didn't talk about family members struggling with it, like my brother Bob, who went to the VA, and they just medicated him because we didn't know what else to do. There wasn't anything more. And I would say I would never have gotten him to meditate. That wasn't ever going to be him. And especially when you've got people that are top level performers and top of their careers, very, very much disciplined and have everything. And it's almost like seeing meditation is, well, that's for somebody else, it's not for me. But my daughter is now a clinical psychologist at the VA in Richmond. And I've been surprised when I talk to her about what I'm doing. She says, well, Mom, I really wish you'd go after something more traditional than that. And then she always says, but we support everybody in whatever path that way they want to take. But even inside, our own families, there's a lot of questioning about it. I guess, what are your thoughts about what is the best way to encourage people to take other steps? Or I guess this is exactly what you're doing. So how do people get in touch with you, learn more about it, and really choose to make changes and a difference in their lives?
Well, I think the first thing is identifying people who aren't your traditional meditators, right? Like, you're going to see high performing individuals. There are high performing individuals that meditate, and they attribute a lot of their success and their ability to process stress and anxiety to meditation. And if you identify them in your lives, then you can see that they set an example and follow that example. Rather than seeing, I don't have anything against my hippie brothers and sisters or my monk brothers and sisters. They are who they are. But I think a lot of the time that perception is that is who meditates, and that's all meditation is for. That's the only population that meditation is for, which is not at all the case. The other perception is that here in the West, that we have everything figured out in our Western medicine. And the Eastern medicine is too woo-woo or snake oil or whatever. Meditation is not strictly for those in the Far East. Meditation can be practiced by those who are here in the West. Meditation can be practiced by Buddhists. Meditation can be practiced by Muslims, by Christians. It does not take away meditation, and practicing, living mindfully rather, does not take away your religion. So that's another thing that a lot of people question that I get is, hey, I'm Christian, I pray, I don't meditate. Well, the way that I think about it, I'm Christian too, and I'm not going to turn this into a religious thing, but I will say the way that I think about it is reading your scriptures, whatever that may be, that is an opportunity for your higher being to talk to you. Prayer is an opportunity for you to speak to your higher being. And then meditation is an opportunity to quiet your mind so that you can hear that still small voice of your higher being, whatever that may be. So I think the three of them, if you talk about Venn diagrams earlier in my presentation, I think there's another circle in there, prayer. Sorry, I'm going down a kind of a rabbit hole, but I believe that we just need to change the narrative in that we can all meditate, and meditation is not this woo-woo practice for the weak. It's not woo-woo practice for hippies and monks only. It's not a woo-woo practice for only those in the Far East. It's something that is global, and it was practiced eons ago by some of our most elite warriors, the Spartans and the samurai warriors, they meditated before they went onto the battlefield because they wanted to be calm and be present in the moment on the battlefield rather than being all amped up and jacked like a lot of us, before we play a football game or before we get on the battlefield. We used to pump up our chests and like, hey, get excited about this. That's exactly opposite of what we want to be doing. We want to be calming our mind, calming our body, preparing ourselves for this challenge that is going to be coming our way. That's on the battlefield, or it's in everyday life, preparing ourselves for the challenges that we're going to face every day. So I highly recommend anybody practice, or at least give it a try. And don't try it for 2 days. Don't try it for 2 weeks. Set a goal of trying to meditate for 8 weeks. Give yourself 8 weeks of regular meditation and paying attention to your day mindfully, and you're going to see changes. You're going to see changes, guaranteed.
Well, thank you so much, Jon. I really appreciate what you brought for all of us today. And to me,
pleasure.
meditation is when you say, I'm not thinking. So when anybody wanders off and says, I'm going to go think about it, I'm like, that's the worst thing you can do. You need to learn how to not. So we really enjoyed having you today, and look
Jenny.
forward to learning more from you, Jon.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me here today, and thanks for a great audience, great questions, and yeah, that's a great opportunity. Thank you very much. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat.
All right. Well, everybody, I think that was a good session, and follow up with Jon. I guess, what's the best way to reach you, Jon?
Yeah, I've got just a simple site. If you go to jonmacaskill.com/links, jonmacaskill.com by itself right now is not live, but jonmacaskill.com/links that has all my contact information, email, social media, and some of the projects that I'm working on. So that's the easiest one.
Okay, so I spelled it JONMACASKILL.com/links.
Nailed
All
it.
right.
See
Well,
it there
thank
in
you
the
so
chat.
much.
Thanks, Jenny. Take care.
All right.
Have
Bye-bye.
a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Okay.